Hello, I'm Bradley Wiggins, Applied Nutrition Sports Ambassador, and I'm here today at the Middlesbrough Sports Village catching up with Richard Kilty, Team GB sprinter, fresh back from the Olympic Games in Paris, where he picked up a bronze medal as part of the men's 4x100 metre relay squad. We're going to be talking what it's like to be an Olympian, what it's like post-Olympic Games, and all things sports nutrition. So let's go and find Richard and have a chat. Hello mate, you alright? How are you, Rich?
Good to see you, mate.
You alright?
See you, mate, yeah.
So this is where it all started for you, isn't it?
Literally, yeah. Middlesbrough Sports Village. It's pretty much where I train every day. 6 days a week. This is pretty much home. 9 in the morning until about 4 in the evening, yeah.
Yeah, and that's you coaching as well, is it? As well as training yourself?
Yeah, it is, yeah. I've got a very strong group of good athletes, so I'm looking at after the moment. I've been coaching since 2015, as well as competing, because I've always had to try and recruit my own training partners. And because of that, the training partners have naturally become my athletes as well. So this is our base.
So what age did you start here? When was the first time? Can you remember that occasion when you came down?
I do, yeah. Well, when I first started, it was Clerval Stadium, which was on a site which was about a mile from here in Middlesbrough Town Centre. But what happened is that got closed down. It was actually they had a cycling track. I think you raced there when you were very young. Yeah, so it was quite a historic place. But this opened up in 2015. And pretty much 10 years now I've been based here 4, 5, 6 days a week. Most of the bulk of the training, so the winter training, the 400 metre reps, the endurance reps, all of my weightlifting, that's all done here now. Of course, similar to you, when you were competing, you've got to go and get some warm weather, so we went up similar to places like you, Tenerife, South Africa. But home in the UK, this is where all my Olympic prep was done, yeah.
So you're fresh back from the Olympics in Paris. What was that like?
Yeah, it was an amazing one. It was like quite an emotional one because of losing a medal in Tokyo in 2022. This was a big redemption Olympic Games for me, and I'd had Achilles surgeries, a lot of bumps, and I was pretty much retired last year, so I made one last push for it. And to leave with a bronze was amazing. Of course, we won a gold. We wanted gold. A gold is what we strive for. But looking back at it with the backstory and everything which has gone at 34-year-old, I can't complain with bringing a medal back.
So this is your third Olympics, was it?
Third Olympics.
Yeah, we actually crossed paths in Rio, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I remember seeing you in Rio 2016, and obviously it was incredible back then. Me being a first-time Olympian to bump into people like yourself, the greatest Olympian we've ever had. It's an amazing experience, isn't it, at the Olympics, especially your first one. And you go in and you meet all of these people who you've looked up at for years in different sports. It's quite special.
I mean, you've had an amazing career, Richard. I mean, you've been world champion, indoor champion, European indoor champion. And you achieved those quite young in your career. I suppose you thought you had the world ahead of you, but then injuries plagued you a bit over the years, isn't it? Yeah,
certainly. The first thing that I ever won, I burst onto the scene and became world champion, the fastest man in the world at the 60 metres. And then I won European titles, Commonwealth Games titles. But then after the Rio Olympics, I started to get plagued with Achilles surgeries, and it felt like the last 6, 7 years of my career, I was always on an MRI scanner, coming out, dragging myself onto the track, and I think my body just couldn't quite handle the speeds that I was running at, and it became quite tricky. But even throughout those very, very challenging years with Achilles surgeries, I managed to be part of the team that broke the European record in the relay, which still stands. Won an Olympic silver in Tokyo, won an Olympic bronze here, so I still had relative success, probably from an individual standpoint, not what I wanted, but I look back now thinking that I've won a medal in absolutely every championship that I can. So
there's not many that have done that.
No, so I'm very proud of myself in that aspect. Of course, you know how hard it is to win gold medals, and you're someone who's been a repeat offender of winning multiple global titles, and that's amazing. So for me, someone like yourself is someone who I massively respect, because I know how hard it is not just to qualify for an Olympic and Worlds and Tour de France and all of these amazing things, but to actually go there and conquer the world and win them, it's amazing.
Watching the Olympics this year, it never leaves you, that Olympics. It's part of our fabric, if you like. I mean, I've got my Olympic tattoo on my ankle from my first Olympic Games. I noticed you have, and it's even coming here today. The staff in reception, it's very touching, actually. Like, it's particularly how they feel about you, and they're going to name the stadium after you. It's an amazing thing, and Middlesbrough's very, very proud of its sporting stars, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I feel like there's lots of other athletes who've been on the team and won medals, but I feel like I get an incredible homecoming when I'm back in Middles, because we don't have a lot of sports stars. We don't have. Me and my wife actually were the only Olympians. She's a triple jumper, represents Lithuania, but she's an adopted Teessider. But I feel like the whole of Teesside really embraces me, and I'm quite proud to fly the flag for sport in my area. So there's a lot of local support for me, which is always massive.
There's so much I want to ask you. Should we go and have a look at the track?
Let's have a walk around.
Let's do it. For me, when I was out there going to Olympic finals and that, the emotion that was attached with it, because it did feel like life and death at times. And sometimes it's nice to have an outside perspective and remind yourself that you'll do what you do thousands of times in training. You've just got to replicate on the day and going through that process. What's the mental approach for you, like going into a four? Because I noticed for the first time actually at this Olympic Games, did you come out onto the athletics track without tracksuits and things on? You used to have to put them out in a bucket before, didn't you?
Yeah. So what happens now is behind the scenes, you'll be in the warm-up area, which will be a separate track near the stadium. It'd just be a small track, like a training track like this, but the arena will be next door. So we'll warm up in there, and then we go through to the call room, which you will have had the call room and different station. Yeah, they'd have us completely stripped down, and you'd get introduced as a team in your full kit. So they like to do like the spectacle of the teams getting introduced now. So
what's that like, trying to keep warm in those periods?
Yeah, well, especially when you're inside underneath the stadium, it's very much air conditioned, so you're constantly feeling yourself moving about, trying to keep warm. Like I'll be there, and I'll have like maybe it's like a little bit of caffeine to try and keep me focused and keep my energy up, and just constantly speaking to the lads, trying to like bounce confidence and encouragement to each other, because you're in there with sometimes the Americans, the Jamaicans, and everyone's so different. And when you're all trapped into one room, I just try to be the leader of my squad, because I'm the senior figure, I'm the oldest lad. They all look up to me for guidance. I make sure I'm like that big brother character. I protect the lads. I make sure they're all in the right mind frame. I'm giving them little cues and little things to think about when we get in. But once it's time to walk out through the little the entrance signs, you're out in the arena, and it's go time really, and you've got to just be on autopilot. And
what does your sort of fueling strategy look like on a race day? You eat 3-4 hours before?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because it was a massive topic for us. So because I'm, like I said, 34 now, I'm the senior member of the team. A lot of the youngsters were coming up to me for guidance and say, Richard, what supplements are you using? What do you eat? So pretty much on a couple of weeks before, I'd be on a fairly lowish carbohydrate diet but high protein. So for breakfast I was eating steak and eggs for breakfast, or high protein, and then I would just use my carbohydrates to fuel before and after training. So we're trying to stay strong as possible but get as lean as possible. But then in the days leading up to the race, we'd increase our electrolytes, our carbohydrate intake. So from a fueling point of view, pretty much for breakfast we were having something very plain, like white rice with eggs, and then after that I'd have like a coffee. I like to drink coffee, some people don't. But then when we were approaching the warm-up area, I would use the Applied Nutrition endurance powder. So that's got the slow releasing carbs and the electrolytes in it. So for me, you burn so many carbohydrates with
your warm-ups during the day and stuff,
You warmed up for an hour, and it was boiling hot. So for me to have a complete drink like that with 50 grams of carbs, all my electrolytes that I need in, I would sip that slowly throughout. And then probably 45 minutes before the race, actually an hour before the race, I'd have an ABE pre-workout shot. And that would be everything I need to get really fired up, because with the relay, we're going through the relay changeover zones now. We have got to be upside down like this, looking around the corner at a human being who's travelling in at almost 30 miles per hour, and we have to put our tape probably about 9 metres around there, and the tape will only be a couple of inches big. So I'm upside down looking at a guy who's turning around a corner, and I have to go when he hits a 6-inch piece of tape, and I've then got to go out full speed through this zone as fast as possible. I can't hear nothing. The crowd are screaming. There's another 8 people here and 8 other teammates running in, and I've got to distinguish and hear his hand when it calls it and take it and go.
Before a certain mark.
Before a certain mark. Yeah. So for me, the caffeine, the ABE with the caffeine and all the other supplements in it, helps me stay so focused and zoned in that I've got to have the caffeine because it helps me concentrate. And then, so that's an important product for me, the pre-workout before a relay, certainly. Because
how long before would you take that?
Probably an hour before the race.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 15 minutes before you go to the call room. And then when I'm in the call room, what I'd done is I had the sprint sachets, the sprint gels, I'd stick them in my sprint suit.
Right.
And when I got into the warm-up area, I'd have the energy gel, and that's got 30 grams of carbs in, and it's got 75 milligrams of caffeine, just as a little top-up of carbs. And that would be it. Then after the race, I would bang into me a whey protein shake, and then I'd get back to the village and we'd rehydrate. I'd have like the fuel hydration drinks, and then we'd probably have a big meal which would consist of probably sweet potato, chicken, lots of green vegetables.
Yeah. Really interesting. How do you find the mental side of it? Is that something you've always struggled with, or do you? I found it easier being in a team because you're sharing that pressure with 3 other guys.
It's a little bit of a different one. So when I've been running my 60-metre races and when I won the World Championships, and there you're by yourself, and again I just tried to think to myself, I can't control what anybody's going to do in this lane. And one thing's for sure, sometimes we can kind of get things all complicated in my head, but what I used to always have the mentality is, right, this is my lane here. There's nobody stood in the middle of this track saying, Richard, slow down, you can't do this, or there's no hurdles there. There's this start line and that finish line, and if I get from here to there faster than these lot, I'm going to win. So I can't afford to think about what he's doing or they're doing or any of the nonsense. You know, you'll get them all like singing, dancing, trying to be boisterous.
Yes.
I just thought to myself, none of that. I'm just going to be completely focused. I'm going to walk around in the call room with a big chest, ooze confidence, and I'm just going to get out there and try and just focus absolutely on myself. Now, when it comes to the relay, it's a little bit different because you've got your 4 members. So I'm usually in this corner, the third leg. And what I like to do is when we're setting up our check marks, we've got a piece of tape. I give Louis 33 pigeon steps.
Right.
Put the tape out and I start here. Now, what I always do when the other teams are setting up and the crowd scream, and when I do a run around there, I'll signal to my last leg runner. So what I tell the lads is when we leave the call room, when we see each other, signal each other with a salute, just to let you know, I've got you, I trust you, we're in this together. So I'll jog up there and I'll say to Louis, and we'll point to each other like, I've got your back, I trust me, we've got this. And then what I do is, when the first leg runner goes on his marks, I like to just think, right, I'm going to take I'm always thinking stuff in the minutes leading up. I'm going to think about my hand position, my technical cues, or anything specific that I've been working in training. But as soon as our first leg runner goes on his marks, what I do is I like to take a deep breath in through my nose, and just as I exhale, it's like I'm blowing any thoughts or emotions, I'm blowing them away into the wind and they're gone. And then what I am, I'm basically like a robot who's dialed in just to do subconsciously exactly what I've been focused and training on for the last couple of years. And then the gun goes bang, and then you're just kind of on autopilot, and that's what I like to do, just kind of get into that zone of no thoughts, no emotions, just in that zone and do what I've been practicing for all them years.
People ask me this a lot now, do you miss it? Do you think you're going to miss it?
I don't know.
It's a hard one. I'd never known what the answer to that is, because it was just, there's nothing like it, those Olympic finals in where the stadium goes quiet, and it's just, you can't describe it to anyone what that's like. You know, as I said before, it felt like life and death at times. Obviously it's not when you come out of it, but they are the best days of your life. But I don't think I'll ever miss the cauldron of that competition, what it's like in Olympic Games. I'm glad I've done it, but it's not something I would love to keep going back and experiencing.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you are there, after those are more big events, you are like, how have I got through that one again, with the emotions and the adrenaline? And I guess most people, if they've not competed at that level, they wouldn't understand exactly what it is. So it's almost exhilarating and amazing, and the journey of going through it all, it's incredible. But I do think I'll miss it. But I think I'm really happy that I'll be coaching and staying within the sport. I'm really happy that I'm doing that. I may still go on, and I probably will run one more indoor season just to say goodbye to the sport. and because I've been so successful, I'd love to do that. But regardless, I will be coaching. But I guess I'm preparing myself for retirement now, because I'm probably going to, let's say even if I do one more year, I'm preparing for retirement. And I have asked a few people, my friend Chris Tomlinson, who you know is a great long jumper, and a lot of ex-athletes. I have always wondered, because it's all I've known since being a child, like what am I going to do with my life, or how am I going to find my thrills, or where am I going to find that competitive aspect from in life. But I guess it's just something we all go through. But what we can do, and I'm sure you've done it, you more than anybody, you can reminisce on an incredible career and how far you've come, and you achieved things which you know the 10-year-old version of yourself would have been so bloody proud of yourself where you're at now. Yeah.
Well, it's been fascinating, Richard. Thank you so much for coming down today, and all the best with what happens next, mate.
Problem.
All the best. Cheers.
Thanks.